For the next 7 days, I'll be eating nothing but burritos of all shapes and sizes to figure out which burrito is the best and to see if I can survive off only burritos. The rules are I can only eat burritos. Rule number 2, I must eat at least 2 times a day. And rule number 3, I cannot eat the same burrito more than once. Seems pretty simple. So let's see how I do. On the first day, first thing in the morning, I started off by weighing myself. I came out to 180 pounds because I'm curious to see how my weight changes after a week of only eating burritos. So stick to the end if you're curious to find out if I lost weight or gained weight. But my first burrito was none other than a Chipotle burrito because it's one of the most famous burritos in recent times and we've all probably had it before. But as far as the taste goes, it really depends on what you like because it's a fully customizable burrito, usually a protein, beans, rice, and other fresh condiments like sour cream, guac, and lettuce. So you can have it exactly how you'll enjoy it. And they are usually pretty big also, if they're not skimping out on the meat. But overall, as you guys may know, everything at Chipotle is solid. It's easy, fresh, healthy, and just simply always a solid option. But also nothing mind-blowing or crazy about it. It's a solid B tier to me. And a good place to start. So yeah, I will be rating every burrito I eat in this video, so stick to the end to find out which burrito was my favorite and which one I crowned the king of all burritos. Afterwards, I went to Walmart to get my dogs their food. And that's when my mind stumbled on the fact that it's a challenge for us to eat the same thing every day, like in this video. Yet most dogs, including mine, eat pretty much the same thing almost every day and even for the rest of their lives. Which just hit me while I was there and I'm starting to kind of feel bad about. And well, I just found interesting. Then after watching some Monday Night Football, it was time for dinner, so I decided to go with some late night Taco Bell. Here I didn't just get one burrito, I got 2 different burritos just because there's so many options and they're usually pretty small. First, the new and famous Flaming Hot Grilled Burrito that is so hyped up and rightfully so. It was so good and honestly another W for Taco Bell because they're always inventing something new and it's always hitting. I also had their most famous burrito, I'd say, the beefy 5-layer burrito, which is a solid and a go-to item every time I go to Taco Bell. And guys, no lie, I know I gave Chipotle a B tier, but in my humble opinion, based on taste, not healthiness, Taco Bell might be an S tier. Yeah, I had to do it and honestly, Taco Bell just does not miss and they're revolutionary, so hey, go give it a try. After just the first day of the challenge, I felt a little bloated and gassy. So I decided to go to the park to get some running in, get some shots in, and well, just de-bloat a little. After that though, I went to my third burrito spot. A spot called Don Victor's Taco Shop for another iconic choice, the breakfast burrito, which is pretty self-explanatory. It has eggs, cheese, and a protein option, which in this case was chorizo. Now breakfast burritos are one of my favorite inventions ever, and most of the time they taste good and they're pretty hard to mess up, no matter where you get them from, and there was no exception here. The only negative I say is it's a huge burrito, especially a very greasy one for breakfast, which isn't really a good idea and might be kind of difficult to eat in the morning. It might have you dragging all day. So usually I'd get a breakfast burrito for lunch, but overall still really good and solid. I'd give it an A tier. And afterwards I had to use the restroom. And I'm not gonna lie, it was one of the better bathroom sessions I've had. I think the burritos really get your stomach digesting and it all came out really smooth. Later on, I started watching some baseball and I was already starting to get hungry. So I went to Viva Taco Express for a California burrito, which is basically a steak burrito with french fries in it. And this one was huge. Now it's a super popular burrito on the West Coast, but I've never really been a fan of it because the french fries really don't do much for me and it acts more as a filler. That was the case here, especially with these soggy fries. And now it wasn't bad per se, I just didn't really enjoy it and it's definitely not my favorite kind of burrito. It was even kind of hard to finish because those fries just fill you up, but I took my time with it and I finished it because I knew this was my last meal of the day. And well, honestly, that gets a C tier. On day 3, I woke up and my honest immediate thoughts were, I do not want to eat a burrito today. Something about how big and oily and full I was from them, I just did not like that feeling every single day. And so I did just that. I didn't eat a burrito until I really got hungry that day. I thought maybe if I got just hungry enough, I'd be able to enjoy it a little bit better. So I kept myself busy and I washed my car and didn't eat until about 4 p.m. And my choice for lunch that day was one of my favorite burritos actually, an Enchilada style burrito from Cafe Rio. It's a food chain very similar to Chipotle, but a little bit better, I'd say. I got my burrito with rice, beans, and shredded chicken and their famous house dressing. And I know what you're thinking, That does not look appetizing, and I know because it's smothered in green sauce, but trust me, this burrito was hitting. Every bite better than the last, and without hesitation, on my third day in a row eating burritos, I finished it all, and it was so satisfying, and I realized I had a mosquito bite on my forehead. But man, it was so good, and probably one of my favorite burritos that I have to give it an S tier. And now I knew I wasn't going to be that hungry later, but I wanted to prepare for my last burrito of the day. So I went to the grocery store to get a burrito we've all probably been served at school before. That's these frozen burritos that literally only cost 37 cents each. So I did what any normal person would do, and I got 3 different flavors. Now I wasn't that hungry, but when I got home, I immediately put them to bake because it said it took 30 minutes for them to bake to be ready to eat, or microwave for a minute, which I wasn't gonna do. So I threw them into bake and I watched some baseball, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but I was really entertained with this World Series. So if you're a baseball fan, was this World Series actually good, or was it just my first time actually paying attention to baseball? Let me know in the comments, because I found it to be better than the average baseball game that I've seen before. But anyways, once the burritos were ready to eat, I sat down to enjoy them, and I took my first bite when suddenly a bug scared the out of me, and I was so confused as to where that bug came from. I spit out the burrito because I was just disgusted, and I thought it came from the burrito. So I grabbed my camera and watched the replay, and I could clearly see it just flew on the plate for some reason. So yeah, I got rid of it and I continued eating, although I was absolutely disgusted and wasn't even that hungry. But besides that, the burritos were not bad at all, especially for 37 cents each. If you're struggling or just need a cheap meal, this really isn't a bad option. Now, it's nowhere near the enchilada burrito I had earlier, but definitely not terrible, especially for the price. Still, I'd give it a C tier. And I'm not gonna lie, shortly after, my stomach was starting to feel the effects of those frozen burritos. I am not feeling good after those frozen burritos. The next day, I honestly didn't feel good and I felt like quitting. So for today, I had to have something fresher and just lighter, which is why I decided on a wrap from Flower Child. Now, wraps and burritos aren't exactly the same, but the wrap is inspired by the burrito and kind of a type of burrito. A wrap is basically a burrito, but instead of the Mexican traditional fillings, it's the fillings that would usually be on a sandwich. So here I got the French dip wrap, which had beef, onion, arugula, cheese, and of course, French onion soup. And honestly, it was so good, and whoever thought of putting a sandwich in a burrito and calling it a wrap is a smart man. And not only was it delicious and fresh, but it was so satisfying after, not sleepy and lazy like every other burrito I had. And so for wraps as a whole, I'd give them an A tier. And now after, I went to Target. And I don't know what it is with Target, but I always have to blow up the toilet here. But not gonna lie, I felt a lot better after this. Afterwards, I went home and watched some Thursday night football and didn't get nothing to eat until after the game. Now, I probably had the healthiest burrito for lunch that day, but for dinner, I had the most unhealthiest burrito of the challenge. I went to my local late night Roberto's taco shop for something called a chimichanga, a deep fried chicken burrito topped with sour cream and guac and cheese. And while I had to eat this, my girl was eating some delicious Chick-fil-A, which I don't even like that, but in the moment sounded a lot better than a burrito. And now honestly, I've never even had a chimichanga before, but from the sounds of it, it sounded way too unhealthy, so I never thought of giving it a try. But to my surprise, it was way better than I ever expected. Especially from it being from a late night taco shop, it was really good. Like, I can't imagine how they taste from a real good spot. It has all the flavor from a regular burrito, yet with a nice texture from the fried tortilla. Now, it doesn't look the best, but trust me, it's a lot better than it looks, and honestly, it's an A tier for me. It blew away all my expectations. On day 5, I woke up still full from that chimichanga, and I destroyed the toilet that morning, which I don't even have footage of because I literally just woke up and destroyed the toilet. But yeah, just like the 3rd day, 4th day, I was completely over burritos. When I ate tacos for a week, that was my favorite food. Burritos, I hardly even eat them. And just how the burritos made me feel after, I was just getting tired of it. They just make you feel so fat and unhealthy and bloated. I am not a fan of that feeling. So without cheating, I got the furthest thing from a burrito that's still a burrito, just so I can make it through this challenge. And that burrito was a sushi burrito. And now they did have tortilla wrap burritos, but like I said, I wanted to be as far away from a burrito as possible, so I got the seaweed wrapped one with rice, corn, cucumber, shrimp tempura, and some sauces. And so technically it really is just a huge sushi roll, so I thought it'd be way too overwhelming, but it was good and fresh, and it was exactly what I needed to keep going in this challenge, and it didn't make me feel like crap after. It was a bit messy, but at this point I'm pretty sure every burrito was just as messy, so it wasn't that bad. And so all in all, I think I'd give sushi burritos was an A tier. And now, did I also mention that it was Halloween? So we went to Spirit Halloween to find my girlfriend's dog a costume. And yeah, doing this challenge on Halloween probably was a bad idea, because I'm obviously not gonna go out trick-or-treating or anything, but definitely would like to have some candy, especially on Halloween. So before the trick-or-treaters came out, I decided to get dinner. I went to Riva's Mexican Grill for a burrito I think I didn't have yet, and that's just a Mexican style burrito, the most authentic version that I could find. And if that wasn't different enough, I got it with al pastor meat, which is a strong marinated pork meat that's really good, with a nice charred tortilla and spicy green sauce, grilled onions, and of course that flavorful meat. I mean, it's the OG burrito and probably the closest thing to an authentic burrito. It was so delicious, of course, and an A tier solid burrito. It's an OG. Afterwards, we took my girlfriend's little sister trick-or-treating, which was nice to get in the Halloween spirit. But the hardest part of that night was we ended up going to Pizza Hut for some late night food for her family, which I obviously couldn't have any of, and was honestly the hardest part of this challenge, because not only is eating burritos every day a struggle, but not being able to enjoy anything else, that's the hardest part. But I promise you I stayed strong and I didn't have anything. On day 6, I honestly felt pretty good and not as bad as the other days, but I did also have to blow up the bathroom early in the morning again, and this time I did record just to prove it to y'all. It's part of the challenge, it's part of the video, you guys have to know. But after this, I got ready because I was surprisingly pretty hungry that day. So my choice of burrito for brunch that day was a vegan burrito from the vegan taco spot Tacotarian. Now, the last time I ate here, I was a little too cruel and closed-minded about vegan food, especially because I was eating tacos, but a burrito's a little different because a burrito's a combination of a lot of ingredients, it's not just the meat, so I had higher hopes for it. So I got the vegan carne asada burrito, and when I received my plate, I was shook because this was the first time I received a burrito with a side of salad, rice, and beans. Now, when I took my first bite, I really couldn't even tell it was vegan, and honestly, that's when I realized every other place I had served mediocre beans, mediocre rice, hoping the protein just saves the burrito. But that was not the case here. Since it's a plant-based taco shop, the rice, beans, salsas all have to be on point because that's their specialty. And although they're using fake vegan meat, you can barely even tell or care because everything around it is really good and is honestly a better overall burrito when every ingredient is made with love. And so in all honesty, this was the best burrito I had thus far. I'd give it an S tier. I was even a bit disappointed that the best burrito I had was a vegan burrito. I ain't gonna lie, that might have been the best burrito I've had. A vegan one. I hate to say it. I really hate to say it, but it might be the best burrito I had. But it was true. Afterwards, I went to the mall with my brother to enjoy the weather and the last day of daylight savings. But after that, I went home to enjoy the last game of the World Series, which was really good. And even though I don't support a baseball team, was really fun to watch. And congrats to the Dodgers. And so for dinner, I went to try a very famous spot here in Las Vegas from San Diego called Sayulitas, known for having some crazy and big ass burritos. No, really, their sign literally says home of the big ass burritos, and they are not lying. And now I didn't get this burrito because it was out of budget and I am not on that level yet. But if you do want to support this channel and for free, all you have to do is like, comment, and subscribe. And honestly, that truly helps me. So if you have the time, go ahead and do that. And hopefully I can continue making these videos and not go broke. But anyways, the menu had so many good and crazy options, but my girlfriend and I landed on the hot Cheeto burrito just because it sounded like the craziest and fun option to get. And yes, I did bring my girlfriend because I needed someone to share this with. And although I got a normal burrito, they're still huge. As for the hot Cheeto burrito, it was surprisingly really good. And I know it sounds crazy, and I thought it would taste crazy, but it was actually a good combination. But then I also kind of regret getting this specific burrito, because this spot definitely had potential to be the best burrito in this video if I would have just got anything else on the menu instead of this gimmicky hot Cheeto burrito. So I would say this spot, Sayulitas, gets an S tier, but this specific burrito sadly gets just B tier to me. And finally, I was on to the last day. But before having my first burrito of the day, I weighed myself to see just how much of a change this burrito diet had on me. And I weighed exactly the same I did before I started this challenge. I literally didn't even lose or gain a single pound, which is not good because 180 pounds is a little too heavy for me. But honestly, I kind of saw it coming because every day I feel so bloated and heavy, and and I just knew there was no way I was losing weight. Anyways, that day I went to a sports bar in the morning to watch some Sunday football. Here they actually only had one burrito option, and it was a combination of a California burrito and a breakfast burrito called a champion burrito. Now on the breakfast side, it had bacon, sausage, eggs, but on the California side, it had avocado, cheese, and french fries, and a nice little Chipotle aioli that was really good. Now this was a burrito that I did not plan on having. It was just in the moment, but it was even a lot better than these other burritos from this challenge, and to my surprise was a good combination, even though I had the french fries from the California burrito that I said I didn't like. So honestly, I'd give it an S tier. But still, even though it's the last day, I didn't even have a single chip, and I only needed one more burrito to be once and for all done with this diabolical challenge. And I'm also just so done with having to use the restroom so much and so often, just like I did right after that breakfast burrito. Lastly, for my last burrito of the challenge, I went to my favorite taco spot, Bruno's Tacos, where I got a birria burrito, one of my favorite protein options, stuffed in a burrito. This burrito was so moist and juicy and was even dripping, and honestly was really good, but had the same problem every burrito on this list had. The meat is really good, but the other stuff inside is just not on the same level. And so honestly, I just give this burrito a B tier, which finally leaves us in one spot. Over the 7 days and 14 burritos I had, I hate to say it, but the king of all burritos was the vegan carne asada burrito from Tacotarian. Wow, can't believe I said it. But yeah, they're a plant-based restaurant. 80% of the burrito is plant-based, so I guess it technically does make sense. Thank you guys for watching.